Hi everyone, let's talk about Gen 7. So this was kind of vaguely announced around the time Dead of Winter came out. It's the spiritual successor, kind of. And I remember them saying back then that, the next game with the crossroads element to it would be a sci-fi themed game. And I have to say that, the theming of this, that we're on this multi-generational ship and the people are put into stasis, and I won't spoil any more story elements than you would find on the back of the box, but it sounds like a really interesting story. I'm definitely interested in campaign games. This is played over 7 different sessions, and the stories that you make in the game will branch out the story and what happens in your particular version. The Crossroads cards I liked from Dead of Winter, and yeah, I was keen to see how they would play in this. And just in general, yeah, sealed envelopes as well. I'm a fan of legacy games. This isn't legacy, it's completely resettable. But yeah, just having secrets locked away in these cards that you organize at the very start of the campaign and all of the various sealed envelopes that come in it, it's definitely something I was really, really excited for. And then when I saw that it was only 3 to 4 players, it's kind of restrictive because we only really play 2 players. But I have to say that I wanted to play it despite that. I wanted to play it enough that I was willing to adapt and mess about with it a little bit. What we ended up doing, so I will fully say in advance that this isn't the rules as written. We just had a third player. As if you saw the playthrough, which I would encourage you to, because I hope that the playthrough will give you a better idea of whether you would like the game than what I'm saying now. But yeah, just like in the playthrough, I had a character, Rachel had a character, and we just had one that we kind of shared. And when story decisions came up, we were kind of in agreement anyway. So we didn't really have an issue with the voting system. Our past choices sometimes affected it, but you see the playthrough for more about that. But yeah, we just had a dummy third player, so we didn't have that kind of, that's any kind of argument or disagreement about which direction we were taking the story in. And yeah, so the game itself, as it starts out in game 1, and again, I don't want to spoil anything specific. The way it starts out, it's a nice dice placement cooperative game where, we are given these various crises that will come up at the start of the round, and they're going to need dice in certain configurations, maybe some resources that we're going to have to get. There's some nice placement options for the various places where you get resources. One manipulates the number that's actually on your dice and works out how many resources you get. One is printed on the board how many you're going to get, but the next dice following along has to be the same number or higher. And then the last one, it just gets you a few resources, but every time someone puts a die there, everyone who's already placed there gets a little bit of something extra. There's nice little extras on dice placement in there. It was a nice little game, but we kind of thought that the critical tasks themselves, we kind of at the start of the round as they came out, we said, okay, then, well, this is what we need to do with this. What numbers have we got? Okay, then I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Okay, we might have to go and get the resources first, but we just planned out those critical tasks first and then did everything else. And based on how you go for maybe operational tasks and donating things, all the stuff that gets you merit and your personal objectives things, you can end up with a bit of disparity in how you level up, just in how things come out. Like, say my objective in the playthrough really wanted to get a load of computer chips in the stores, but the critical task kept needing loads of computer chips. There's not really much we could do unless I could get everyone to agree to just not spend any of those, and we'll let the game suffer because I want my thing in there. I think that is kind of a thing that the game is expecting us to do. That it's expecting us to have this kind of disagreement over, oh, well, I can see this critical task needs doing, and if we let the power division go down one more, you're not going to complete your objective, but I need to complete my objective, so sorry about that. That kind of thing. Maybe not quite as selfish as that just like, okay, maybe I'm just going to let this slip a little bit. Maybe I'm just going to try and hide in the background and not contribute as much because I really need to get my crew in a certain configuration to satisfy my personal objective, and it's round 4, and I understand that we need to try and get this thing done so we don't suffer a penalty in the story, but I really want that star, so or I really want to rank up, so I'm more concerned about this now. That it's going to depend on your group, isn't it, really? The way we play, it's definitely cooperative first, so yeah, I feel like maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like that's what the game was kind of expecting us to do. And if you do fully cooperate in it, which, it does say this is a fully cooperative game. That's another thing that I was excited about uh, as a successor from Dead of Winter. No betrayers, none of that semi-cooperative stuff, just fully cooperative experience. But I think it is expecting you to have some of that kind of, maybe not quite selfishness, but, well, it is selfishness, isn't it, really? So yeah, that's a little thing that we found, that the game, these random events and things, we just did them the first thing in the round, and then, okay, then now let's see what we can do with our stuff. And it was never much of a factor. The game does get harder, and again, I don't want to spoil anything that comes out, any of the envelopes or anything like that, but there are, spanners in the works that are thrown in, but they just kind of, they made it more random and left more to chance, which, cooperative games you have to be fighting against something, don't you? But it kind of, when we already had a structure that we were happy with, and maybe this is just a bit too easy though, it went in a direction that just wasn't for us. I'll say as well, I should have said this earlier maybe, we have played 4 games of the 7-game campaign, and yeah, if you really need someone that's played the whole thing through, you're gonna have to go somewhere else, I'm afraid, because yeah, we were kind of, as I said, things happened in game 2. Not that much happens. It's pretty much the same experience, but then you unlock a couple of things that I just mentioned, and yeah, as the games were going on, we weren't really that interested in the story at the start. I think it, as has happened to me with a lot of games, like say Mansions of Madness, if you see my first impressions for that game, while vastly different to this, I was so impressed with what I'd seen and so excited about the possibilities and the scope for what the game could turn into. I think in the first game, and probably the second, if I'd just done a genuine first impressions of just our first game, yeah, we'll be talking about all the potential and the possibilities and the ways that I was excited that this story could go in. And yeah, that I have since gone past, after we decided that just it's hard to get a campaign game going anyway, to get people together enough to keep playing through this campaign. But things like Pandemic Legacy, the story is really engaging, the game that it's built on is already solid, and it was a breeze to desperately want to play that again. I have to say, with the kind of niceness of the game, and then kind of being disillusioned with it later on as some things got added to it, and kind of having hope for the story at the beginning, but then as it went on, seeing that, oh no, there isn't really anything for us here either. Yeah, it kind of led to us just being like, we are not going to get any further with this game by carrying on in the campaign. It's something that we have done for other campaign games before, that after, I need to do a video, so let's just power through this. And yeah, it just isn't worth it. It puts us through a time that we're not happy with, and your opinion of the game generally tends to just get worse because you force yourself to play through the game. And yeah, that's kind of where it put us, really. I don't have an issue with, as I said, the base dice placement stuff. Things that are kind of an issue that, like, I thought that that Dead of Winter did a much better job. I know that the games are very different, but other things from Plaid Hat as well, let's say other story-based games like Stuffed Fables, they really evoke a feeling of that particular universe. And while maybe it's going for this sterile computer futuristic thing, I did feel like when you have it all laid out, that the places are nice and stuff, and you've got all of this intriguing stuff on the book and the cover and stuff, and sometimes you have a full page piece of art in the storybook as well. Outside of that, all the crossroads cards, all the schema cards, all the file cards, all the objective cards, everything is very, very plain and drab, really. And yeah, it's a complete 180 from something like Stuffed Fables or Comanauts, that's also coming from Plaid Hat Games, which looks to be equally beautiful in that regard. I almost forgot. I just wanted to mention the rulebook briefly as well. I don't think the rulebook does a very good job of teaching you the game at all. It follows this weird structure that a lot of rulebooks tend to do it, where it starts you off kind of, here's the situation we're in. That's all fine. A little bit of story, great, and then it goes on to these pages of, okay, here's what this card structure is. Here's the layout of this card. Here's the layout of this card. Here's the layout of this board. And it's laying out all of these things. You've got no idea what any of this stuff is yet. And it's telling you all about, the different parts of this card and all this. I don't know what any of it is yet. And then you start setting up the game. I understand, it should just be component list. Now set up. Now we've got a picture reference of what all this stuff is and where it goes. Now we're set up. Now there's some rules. Okay, as we get into the rules, the first thing in the round is the critical tasks. Now I'm going to show you what a critical task card is and what all of the elements are, and have it in a structured format as you go along. Now this card is being presented to me. Now I'm going to tell you what it is and what all of these things on it are. It's a really strange way that this is definitely not the only example of it, but I really don't understand that structure of rulebooks at all. But the rules in this game have kind of been, maybe it's just so that you will spring to the middle of the rulebook and see the basic, structure of the game. But it's kind of like, this is all of the rules, this 2-page spread here. And then we have, all the setup and component references before. And then we have pages of this glossary that are essential rules that you really need to go into there. And then sometimes it's like, okay, then I'm going to see what this section does here. Okay, that gives you this kind of card. Okay, then now I'll look up that card section and find out more about what that card does. And yeah, this is such a weird, muddled way to me of explaining a game to someone. And yeah, and then on top of that because it's a campaign game and it's unlocking more and more things, that's, sometimes a lot of rules are crammed on these rules cards, and I just don't think that it's a very good way of teaching someone a game at all. And yeah, but there is, there's Watch It Played for it. But it's, as amazing as Rodney is, it's very disappointing that the actual thing that is in the box doesn't do a very good job of teaching you the game. But yeah, I feel like I've been overly moany about it. But yeah, I'd say that while there's nothing overly bad about the game structure itself or the story, there's nothing that I want to shout about either that was so good about it. It's certainly not that to keep playing a similar thing 7 times and to spend, this is and again, I don't like to talk about price because I got sent this game, so I don't know how much it is where you are or how much it is at the moment, and who am I to be talking about these things? But it's got a very, very high RRP in England anyway, and I have to say that there are a lot better story games about as well. And I feel like this kind of, as I get towards the end of this, No Pun Included's video went up I think a couple of days ago. I saw it this morning, so I'm hoping I haven't echoed too much of their stuff. But yeah, I would go to their video for for similar thoughts and probably more expanded thoughts as well about games of a similar price like Gloomhaven. Different game, but a story-based experience for a similar price. Yeah. So yeah, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but for us, Gen 7 didn't really work. I hope that it works for you if you're excited about it. The playthrough is there, not my rambling nonsense. The playthrough has got spoilers in it, be aware of that, but it's got examples of the story and everything and the writing, and it's up to you whether it would be something for you. I feel like I should be more positive. Let's do a positive game now. Bye.